Hello everyone, it's Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we are looking at a Vengeance deck for the expanded format, and it's a pretty fun deck, and it has decent typing as well, non-EXs for the most part, so you're going to try and trade on these EX decks as best you can, and basically win by dumping a load of Pokemon into your discard pile to do huge amounts of damage. So let's jump into the deck. Our first attacker we have is the Vespiquen, so we're playing a full 4 count of the Combee, and also a 4 count of the Vespiquen. It's a 90 HP grass type. Grass typing is very important so that we can hit for Seismitoads for weakness, which is a very popular deck in Expanded, so being able to do that is really nice to put pressure on those Toad variants, which are very, very popular. And it's all about the main attack here, Be Revenge, for a double colorless energy, doing 20 plus 10 more damage for each Pokemon in your own discard pile. So we've seen this before on the Flareon, that's why we're playing the combination of the two in here. And basically we're going to try and throw loads of Pokemon in the discard early on and do huge numbers with Be Revenge. Vespiquen also has a free retreat, which is really nice, but mainly it's in here because, you know, the whole deck is centered around doing this Vengeance. Because we have things like Ultra Ball and Battle Compressor, it's very quick and easy to get them into the discard to do big numbers from the very first turns of the game. Just a DC cost as well means just a single attachment gets this guy going, which is really nice. So pairing up with the Vespiquen, we of course have the Flareon. It too has the same attack, just with a different name. Vengeance, it does 20 plus 10 more for each Pokemon in your own discard. So we're going to try and do that as well whenever we can. The reason why we play the combination of the two, it means that we can dump some of those pieces into the discard pile to improve our own attacks, and some matchups we're going to want to go with just Vespiquen, sometimes maybe just Flareon, based on typing or other things like that. So it's important to have the combination of the two, so that we have enough attackers throughout the whole game, but we can still, you know, dump quite a few on our way. Additionally, Flareon has a second attack, Heat Tackle. We can actually use this attack because we do use Fire Energy. It does 90 and you do 10 to yourself for an extra Fire plus DCE, so we can get away with that sometimes, but for the most part we get Vengeance going to do more damage in the early turns anyway, so Vengeance is the main attack we're going to look for here. It's very important to use the Energy Evolution Eevee, because this is one way we can actually get around Archeops, which is a problem for this deck sometimes. So by attaching Fire Energy, we actually can search from the deck to evolve. So this is a great way to get around Archeops, like I say. So it's important to play this Eevee, even though it does have 10 less HP than other options out there. So maxing out both lines of this, like I say, they're our main attackers. We just get them going, and we can compress some of them as well to improve our own output. So supporting these guys, we have for Unown. Unown's really nice because it can dump itself to the discard whenever we draw it, basically. We just put it on the bench and straight away discard it if we need to get the plus 10, and we also get an extra card, which is just absolutely lovely. We also have one Exeggcute in here for propagation. It just makes our Ultra Balls a little bit nicer, a bit healthier really, so that we just don't dump everything in the hand. There's quite a lot of important one-offs and stuff like that in this deck, so having Exeggcute that can easily just go to the discard pile and just be Ultra Ball bait makes it a whole lot cheaper for the whole game, so it's pretty nice having one of those in here also, seeing as how it adds to the overall Pokemon count, which you can see, we're playing 27, which is absolutely monstrous. We're also playing 2 Audino in here. The Busybody ability is really, really helpful. If it's in the hand, we can reveal it, heal 10 from our active, and also 1 special condition. This is a great defense against a Selgor. It's also great against stuff like Toad and Yveltal that love to use Hypnotoxic Laser. If we've been sent to sleep, it can be a great way of waking up and either free retreating with something like Vespiquen into a different attacker, or just so that we can get our own attack off before dying ourselves. So Busybody can really help keep us alive and keep us hitting turn after turn, so it's really nice to have this in here. Also, like I say, if it's not going to be important in the matchup, we can just dump it with Compressor. If you do happen to start with Audino, the hit bump attack can actually be useful in some situations. For a Double Colorless, we can do 30 damage, and if they try to attack next turn, they get to flip a coin. If tails, their attack does nothing. So it can actually be a way of forcing Seismitoad players into awkward situations, but for the most part you want to avoid attacking with Audino whenever possible. We also have a single Bunnelby in here. Bunnelby is pretty important to play because there's the Sableye deck going around that just discards your resources. So being able to Rototiller back stuff like Energy is very, very important. Also Rototillering back stuff like Lysandre to get around the Life Dew that they always play. It can be pretty important overall. So we use Bunnelby to recover our resources against that deck specifically because they play so many hammers and whatnot. So we need to have Bunnelby in here for that reason. Also against that deck, you can actually borrow them to fully discard them because it's oftentimes that Sableye players will just keep using Super Rod to recover their deck to 3 to 4 cards. And being able to borrow those cards away again can sometimes steal you wins. So Bunnelby is really nice for that matchup. In general as well, just recovering resources when we need to is pretty important. But definitely having one in here really helps you out against a Sableye matchup, which otherwise is absolutely abysmal because we only play 7 energy. So next up we have one Shaymin EX. Oh no, we have 2 Shaymin EX, sorry. To help us just keep drawing through the deck, as you can imagine. We can lower our hand size quite easily with Ultra Balls, and we have a lot of insta-play cards as well. So Shaymin is often going to be getting good value for us there. We're also playing one Jirachi EX, very similar. Stellar Guidance getting us into a bunch of supporters. As you can see, we play a bunch of different types. I think we play 6 different supporters in this deck. So Jirachi is going to help us out there. It's also levelable, searchable. We do play 1 in here, so it's an extra out into a supporter so that we don't have dead hands, which is pretty important. So let's look at the trainers now. It's pretty bare bones just based on the fact that we have 27 Pokemon. So we have 4 Battle Compressor, pretty important. It's great for getting Pokemon in the discard for our attacks. It's also important to throw the Blacksmith that we have into the discard pile so we can get usage out of that. It's a great way for us to get around Giratina, so we need to throw the Blacksmith whenever we can into the discard pile. For ball search cards, we're actually playing one Evo Soda. Again, it's a concern that I have dealing with Archeops. So playing one Evo Soda can give you an extra attacker for a turn, which is pretty good actually. So we have multiple outs against Archeops. We have Energy Evolution, we do have Evo Soda, and I'll talk about Hex Maniac as well in a moment. So we have plenty of outs to get around Archeops, but it is still annoying, so it's good to have as many outs as possible to still carry on with our strategy as we like. Like I say, we're playing one level ball. It can help search out the full Vespiquen line. It can't find the Flareon, which is annoying, but it can find everything else in the deck, except for Flareon and Shaymin, so it's going to get us a bunch of stuff for the most part, so it's pretty good to have one in here. We are playing the 4 Ultra Ball. It can be great for discarding more Pokemon that we have in hand to help our Vengeance and Be Revenge attacks. And like I say, we play the Egg to make it a little bit cheaper as well, so it's pretty powerful for us there. Maxing out the VS Seeker as well, we have the Compressor engine to try and get into the supporters that we want as early as turn 1. So it's pretty good to have that. And like I say, so many different techie supporters that we're playing. We got to max out the VS Seeker here. So onto supporters, we are playing the single Blacksmith. It's amazing for shoving them onto Flareon in a single turn so that we don't have to use a Double Colorless, but it means that we still continue attaching and attacking turn after turn. Pretty important there, and it's also our main out against Giratina. We're going to go for the Blacksmith play onto a Flareon to use Vengeance against him rather than having to attach DCE, because we can't do that if we've been hit with a Chaos Wheel. So Blacksmith, very, very important in the deck. We're also playing that one Hex Maniac. It's very important for Archeops. It's often the thing we're going to look for. It can sometimes be disruptive in early turns as well if we happen to stumble upon it in our opening hands, which is nice to slow down other decks. Hex Maniac can also be good against stuff like Archestoise, and that's a pretty popular deck right now. Any other things using abilities, I know that it can shut down metal decks, which are actually fairly playable and expanded as well, so having the Hex Maniac shutting these sorts of things off can be really nice. We're playing the single N in here. Oftentimes we're going to be aggressive with our deck, going to be trying to take prizes as early as possible, so we don't want to play too many N, but it is our out for a lot of things to try and disrupt our opponent when it comes down to the late game, so having one in here is pretty important. We're also playing one Teammates. Teammates is great for getting exactly what we need. It's, along with Comp Search, the only card that can help find Double Colorless energy. So in a deck where DCE is pretty much the thing you're looking for every turn, Teammates is pretty fantastic to guarantee it, rather than risking a Sycamore and not getting it. So Teammates pretty fantastic there as well. So we're playing 2 Lysandre. Lysandre's going to help us pick off things sat on our opponent's bench for easy prizes. Like I say, we're all non-EXs, so the prize race is really great for us. And for the most part, we're going to finish our game by capturing up Shaymin or Jirachi or something that our opponents played on their bench to help them get set up to just close out the game that little bit faster. It can also be helpful against stuff like Night March, where they're mainly non-EX themselves, and the prize race is kind of a worry, but Lysandre can help us take out Shaymins or Jirachis that they play, maybe even a Mew EX. So Lysandre pretty important in here. Finally, we're just playing 3 Sycamore. I think 3 is actually enough based on how much draw we have with Shaymin Jirachi and the Compressor Vespiquen combo. I keep finding it too dead to actually play 4, so I think 3 is actually alright for this deck. But still, it's the most powerful draw supporter we have, really, and it's really good to see him. So onto the tools, we play 3 different tools. Firstly, our A-Spec is Life Dew. This is again a tech to deal with the Mirror Match and also to deal with Night March for the most part. Life Dew means that we don't lose a prize when we get knocked out. Pretty nice, I would say. We can also recycle it with Bunnelby if we really want to, but normally Bunnelby is going to sacrifice himself in the process of doing that, so you don't really gain much by doing that combo other than getting back something like an energy as well with the Bunnelby. So Life Dew, pretty nice in here, mainly to skew the prize trade even further to really help us close out the games. We also have 1 Silver Bangle in here. It helps us do the extra 30, which sometimes with weakness can be an extra 60, which is pretty crazy. Essentially, you're already hitting 100 without any Pokemon in the discard pile against a Seismitoad, or if you're up against, something metal or grass, you've already got the knockout. You've already got 100 without putting anything in the discard pile, which this deck can do very efficiently. So Bangle really going to help us push into those upper counts to hit Megas and just help us hit EXs in the early turns, which is nice. We're also playing a single Floatstone. We do have free retreat on the Vespiquen, but the Flareon doesn't have free retreat, and any of other attackers that we start with, or any other Pokemon that we start with other than Eevee or Combee, we might want to have to move them at some point. So having the Floatstone's nice. I prefer it over Switch just because we have Audino anyway to get us out of like sleep and stuff, and the Floatstone gets, for the most part, more than 1 usage, so it's nice to have that in here. Finally, for energy, we're playing the 4 Double Colorless. It's our main priority in the deck, really. Trying to find these turn after turn is our bread and butter to help us get our attacks off. But also we have the 3 Fire Energy. Like I say, it has real good purposes. It works with a Blacksmith, and it helps us energy evolution as well in the opening turns. That's often a good play, rather than slapping a Double Colorless on the board and risking it getting hammered away, or our Pokemon gets knocked out with the DC on it. It's better to just attach a Fire Energy turn 1 to evolve into a Flareon. It gives us more survivability, more HP. Also, if it does end up getting knocked out, we get an extra Pokemon in the discard pile. So Fire Energy is the one you want to find on your opening turns for the most part, because it also means that next turn you don't need to find the DCE. You just need a single Fire Energy to actually attack with Flareon turn 2. So overall, Fire Energy, definitely the choice for your basic energy overall. And that is the deck, guys. We will save it up now, and just in case I haven't. And we'll hop into the ladder and find ourselves a battle. So we have a game against Xano XD. I don't know how to say that. I never know. Okay, let's... we get to go first here, which is nice. We start with Eevee and Bunnelby. Because we have Floatstone, I might just slap the Eevee down there anyway. But I guess the Floatstone is probably better on the Bunnelby. Because we're going first, I can start Bunnelby here. But also it's a Pokemon I might want to dump with Sycamore. Okay, let's start Eevee. And we'll hold Bunnelby. And we see Litleos, and Pyro really is not a problem for this deck. We draw into a second DCE, which is a bit of a pain, because now I think we need to bench Bunnelby just to recover DCEs if we really need to. Because it's a non-EX deck for the most part, in terms of Pyroar. We need to have enough energy throughout the game to actually sustain us. So dumping this DC is pretty painful, but we need to get a slightly better setup than this. And we get some good cards off that Sycamore. We do get an Unown, which I want to use first. We find ourselves another Combee, which is nice. And then we can use Level Ball. I think we just want to find another Eevee here. I think another Eevee's fine. We don't need that many Pokemon this game to get the knockout. However, we could just go for another Unown to keep us cycling. I think that's not a bad play either. We already have a pretty strong hand, and we've not used our Shaymin yet. So let's use Farewell Letter. We draw into another Vespiquen, which is actually quite nice. I think I want to just retreat here and just hold the hand. We'll probably get stronger value out of Shaymin next turn if we can play down 3 cards and then Shaymin. So we'll do that. Also, if he doesn't move this Keldeo, we could be in really good shape because we have weakness, of course, with our grass types. We see that Sycamore and just a pass from our opponent, which is really good for us. 3 Pokemon in the discard, so at the moment we're hitting 100 on this Keldeo already. And we've got plenty more stuff to do this turn, so we can... I think I'm going to play down the Eevee just for an extra card off Shaymin. The issue here now is we didn't actually get much good stuff off of that. Only doing 100 this turn is a bit of a pain. Do I want to use Hex Maniac though to try and disrupt our opponent? It does. It doesn't really stop his rush-in plays because it's already in the active, but it could stop any more like Shaymins to get a crazy turn where he gets the Blacksmith and the evolution and all of that stuff. So I think we may as well just play the Hex out and use Be Revenge for 100. One criticism of this deck is that a lot of the Pokemon that you want are ones that, like, you don't really want to discard many cards in this deck until the mid to late game. So there's a criticism that it's not very strong until, you know, turn 5 or 6 onwards, where it just really starts steamrolling. The opening turns, you're really not achieving much. I do still like this deck though, just because it's non-EX and it's fast. You have pretty much decent matchups for the most part. So we see a Floatstone go onto the Keldeo just to retreat out into the Litleo. Fairly slow start from our opponent here. So I'm going to attach a Fire Energy to get a Flareon from our deck into play here. And I think, again, just a Be Revenge is going to do it. We're still not getting KOs, which is a real shame. Our hand, I think playing down that second Eevee has really punished us, because the hand we drew into was pretty dead. One issue with this deck is that you do have so many Pokemon that once you've already played a few down, it can be kind of annoying. Because we're not getting the KO here, I'm actually tempted to use Intelligence Gathering, and I think that's what I'm going to go for, just for some extra cards. We get an extra Audino, which incidentally isn't helpful, but if it was a Sycamore, we would have had a crazy turn next turn. So we're going to see a Compressor from our opponent. This deck just gets so much stronger the more our opponent really hits us back. So until our opponent starts doing damage to us, we're going to be sort of sat here doing not a lot. We see a DC go onto the Charizard, and then we see a Sycamore. Then a Pyro does come down onto our opponent's bench. We see a rush-in retreat, I think, just for the Charizard. It, of course, has weakness on us now, so it's going to be able to take the knockout there. We can go into the Floatstoned Eevee here. And before anything else, we're going to use Farewell Letter. And now we draw Teammates, which is actually fantastic. Exactly what we needed to pick up. 3, 4, 5, 6. So at the moment we're doing 80. If we get Ultra Ball, Ultra Ball's pretty nice here. We could attach, Evolve, bench, Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball plus... we don't need energy this turn. Probably just another supporter. That's probably what we're going to go for here. So let's... I think Compressor does get us an extra Pokemon, but because it's not actually going to result in a knockout, there's no real point in going for that yet. So let's go for Ultra Ball plus, I think, just VS Seeker or Sycamore here. We don't have a Sycamore in the discard. Oh yeah, we do. So VS Seeker's the best play here. So we're going to Ultra Ball away Audino, and I think also a Combee, so that we can find ourselves an Unown to help us get another card and put another Pokemon in the discard pile. And we top deck into DCE. Does that change much? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're hitting 110. I don't think it does change much. I'm just going to manually attach to the Flareon for now. Evolve into the other one. And I think I want to attack with this guy to keep the Floatstone in play. It's just a nice thing to have. Don't think I really want to bench too much else this turn. We have plenty of attackers for the next like 3 turns, so we can hold these for now and just hit for 110. Like I say, right now, not putting huge pressure on the opponent, but next turn we're doing 130, which is enough to kill pretty much everything. Our opponent's going into the Pyro now. With Muscle Band, he can hit 110 if he discards. So it looks like that's what our opponent's going for here. They're going to Ultra Ball to find another Pyro as well. And yeah, we do see that discard to take out the Flareon here. So let's go into our own Flareon with the Floatstone. And we can play down Eevee. We can also Life do a Vespiquen, which is going to be really nice here. And we've already lost 2 Combees. So I think I might want to play this one down and then just play Sycamore. I think Sycamore is actually more helpful than teammates here. What else do I really need other than... because we just picked up the Life do, which was something I would have gone for. So I think in general just getting this is going to help us out more. We pick up a few more discarding cards, which is nice. We haven't yet put the Exeggcute in there. So they're pretty expensive right now. I might want to hold the Bangle for next turn, maybe killing one of these guys anyway. So for now we can just use Vengeance. We have the knockout, I believe, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. Yeah. Actually, I want to retreat into the Vespiquen, definitely. This does sort of bait out the Charizard, but because we're not losing a prize anyway, it's kind of okay to bait Charizard out here. So we do see Charizard come out. He of course does have Keldeo anyway, so we just see a DC onto the Pyro. And we do get hit with that wing attack for knockout, thanks to the weakness there. We can go back to Flareon. And we have a bunch of Ultra Balls here. I think I want to grab off the teammates a DC and probably just an Exeggcute to make these Ultra Balls work. Then we could play all 3 if we wanted to. Which could be quite useful here. We've already lost 3 Double Colorless energies. Our 4th is in play. So potentially trying to find Blacksmith this turn might be a play. That could well be what we go for here. So let's evolve into Flareon, and I think the Blacksmith is probably the thing that I want here. We want to guarantee a supporter for next, a Vespiquen for next turn, or an attacker for next turn. But it looks like our Jirachi was prized. That's something I should have picked up on. So let's just take the egg and play out our hand here. Let's Ultra Ball away the egg, find Vespiquen, play down Vespiquen, and I think these 3 are going to help us throughout the rest of the game. I think that's all the attackers we need. We have Bunnelby if things get too hairy, so we can put the Bangle on Vespiquen, because now that's killing Keldeo. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, da, 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 da. It was killing Keldeo anyway, of course, but we can VS Seeker now for Sycamore. And Sycamore away in Eevee. So there's the Blacksmith that we were looking for. We do have a turn attachment that we can put onto somewhere here. I think the turn attachment might well be just a Bunnelby here, because attaching a single one to Vespiquen achieves nothing. We can't play any of these compressors because our deck is so thin. So I think it's just going to be a case of attaching to Bunnelby and Vengeancing for 2 prizes. We do pick up that Jirachi that was prized and a 4th compressor. We really haven't seen them at the right time. Very good in the early game, but we've not had them just yet. We've not seen any Lysandres yet either, which would be very helpful. But we need to Blacksmith anyway next turn. We're seeing a laser as well. That laser is going to help our opponent get the knockout here. Oh wow, he didn't choose to knockout? That's pretty crazy. Yeah, I think that was a mistake on our opponent's part. If he had got the knockout there, we could have Blacksmith responded, and then he's left with just Keldeo. So I think we would have won that game anyway. But that was obviously a misplay from our opponent. So let's find ourselves another game. I'm going to take a quick swig of water. If you can hear it in my voice, I've got a bit of a cold at the moment. So we have a game against Norakami 8. And he's going to flip some coins. It's a head, so we get to go first. And we start with double Eevee and Combee. Let's lead with Eevee. And I think I want to bench the other 2. And let's see what our opponent starts with here. Looks like we're up against a Sceptile Ariados variant, which is pretty favourable for us. We have Flareon to do the business there, so it looks like we've got a good matchup here. It means we can start dumping part of the Vespiquen line. We can dump Exeggcute. We do have Audino to help us get out of poison, but I think the poison's just going to be to finish us off anyway, so that might be something we want to dump here as well. With our other compressor, we need to at least get rid of a supporter so that we can draw some stuff. Alternatively, we can use our Ultra Ball to get a Shaymin. So we don't need to use VS Seeker here. But I think I'm still going to discard one supporter just in case. So let's use that compressor now. I think I want to throw a Sycamore in there, because Sycamore's always good to throw in. Also, we can throw a Lysandre in there. And I think we can toss Jirachi. It seems fine. You don't need to use Jirachi every game. Let's propagate, discard, and find ourselves a Shaymin. Could also have just gone for an Unown there, because we're going to Sycamore anyway, but this sort of gives us more outs. So we hit Level Ball. I'm going to use that just for an Unown. And as you can see, we're hitting a really good turn here. We didn't get any fire energy, which was something I was kind of looking for. This means that we sort of need to commit a DCE somewhere. And it's awkward if we put it on the active. But there's not many ways for grass Pokemon to accelerate. So it might be okay here. Before we use the Sycamore. Yeah, based on this, I think it's better if we attach to the active. Just because it doesn't look like Sceptile will kill us next turn. Something like a Lugia could come down, but that seems fine, really. We do hit some more things, which is nice. We get some more. We get another Unown to draw us a card. There is an argument of keeping Unowns for when you really need them, but I'm still looking to get a perfect turn, really. We hit another compressor. Now, what can that help us get rid of? We've already got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 3, 6, 9 Pokemon in there, so we have enough to knock out all of our opponent's Pokemon. So I think it's okay to just compress away a few other techie things here. Stuff like the Hex Maniac. And also the we actually have prized our Blacksmith, which is a bit of a worry. It means I want to keep our energy in our deck. Sorry. We can also get rid of some of these Combees because we're going to dump these Vespiquens, I think. Actually, I might want to keep... Oh, we've got one on the bench, so I think I can get rid of another one quite safely. Yeah, I think that's fine. And we will just end our turn here. Pretty rapid start from us. We can evolve out of any poison or sleep shenanigans our opponent wants to do here. But if he gets laser, if he gets Verbank, it's a bit more awkward now that he's put that muscle band on. So let's see what our opponent does here. We do see a laser. Don't think that really matters. Only if he gets Verbank plus Grass out of his 3-card hand. See another Trainer's Mail. For a letter, so that's one of the combo pieces. Would be kind of annoying to see this Eevee go down. I wasn't considering him playing Muscle Band really, but I guess if it's a non-mega deck, of course you're going to play it. He actually opted to dump one of those grass energies. He could have just found one. So maybe it does play at least some of the mega in here. And we do survive, which is kind of nice. We wake up, but that doesn't matter because we can evolve out of this anyway. And we can evolve another Flareon. And I think our attachment for the turn can be a fire energy as well to get a third Flareon out. I think I just want to evolve and then use the abilities. Ultra Ball. And because we've prized one of our Shaymins, let's grab Unown. I was aware of the Shaymin being prized, but it's fine. We're going to be taking cards off the prizes anyway. We pick up an Evo Soda, which obviously isn't helpful. But we can Vengeance here for a huge amount of damage. And put our opponent in an awkward spot. And we pick up a couple of nice cards here. We guarantee an attack for next turn. And we have a Lysandre if he wants to stall like he is now. We see an Ariados come down onto the bench. Then we see a Trainer's Mail. He could even go for a String Shot to try and stall us here. We're going to see a Verbank. And we do get hit with Poisonous Nest. And then we see a Juniper, from our opponent. Getting rid of quite a few supporters there. Another Sceptile gets benched. We see an attachment to the bench Sceptile. And just a pass. So it would be really nice. Ooh, picking up DCE. It would be really nice if we could keep this Flareon, but I think it's actually worth just Lysandering here. Even though we're going to go down at an awkward time. Keeping the Sceptile from being able to set up is so huge. And we can just free retreat into Vespiquen. That's like not a worry for us anyway. So our opponent goes back into that Spinnerack. And we're going to go into Vespiquen, like I say. It's a free retreater if he can't get the knockout. Which looks likely just because he has no energy here. Even if we get somehow Lysandre killed, we have fire energy in hand, so we just need to hit one of our VS Seekers. We've already got rid of 2 in earlier turns. Then we see a letter from our opponent after they evolve into Ariados, attaching to the bench Sceptile again. Then we see a Skylar. Skylar seems really slow and expanded. There's so many good supporters that I think Skylar's pretty redundant. You can just use like Trainer's Mail as like a pseudo Skylar for the most part. But our opponent's still opting to play it here. So I'm going to Evo Soda to reduce 1 from hand. Attach for the turn as well. Shaymin for 3 to try and get that VS Seeker. And we do hit it, so we actually have game here. VS Seeker for Lysandre. Lysandre up this Sceptile, and that was really, really easy. Hitting for weakness for the win. That's how Flareon does it, basically. Let's put a bit of BM involved as well. Get that life do on just to let him know he was never going to win that game. So pretty good win for Flareon there. And there's the Blacksmith in the prizes. So that's pretty good. When you start hitting for weakness, you really have a good time with this deck. So a couple of good games there. I hope you all enjoyed. And I've been Joe from OmniPoke, and I'll see you guys next time.